Welcome to the Leadership Lyceum, a CEO's virtual mentor. Now, here's your host, Tom Lindquist.
Glad to have you back in the Leadership Lyceum, where we bring you direct access to top CEOs and directors of boards in an interview format that provides insight on situational issues that confront CEOs every day. It is a CEO's virtual mentor. In this two-part episode 5, we're pleased to feature Tom Fanning, Chairman and CEO of Atlanta-based Southern Company. If you're just joining us by linking over from my recent feature article on Mr. Fanning in trade publication Public Utilities Fortnightly, welcome to our podcast. It's been a busy end of summer for us here at the Lyceum. Thanks to our listeners, the podcast is getting wider and wider listenership, which has resulted in interest in having written articles derived from the content of the podcasted interviews. Public Utilities Fortnightly is one such publication. We will announce others in the coming weeks also. And just a preview for the guitar and music lovers in our listenership, keep a lookout for episode 6, an interview with Fender Instruments CEO Andy Mooney. He is just into his second year at the helm of that iconic brand. No stranger to brands, Andy led Disney Consumer Products as chairman and was chief marketing officer of Nike's global apparel business prior to coming to Fender. Join us in episode 6 for a conversation with Andy on brand, product leadership, and strategy. We'll be right back to introduce Tom Fanning and Southern Company and to kick off today's episode. Stay tuned. Just by way of background, Southern Company has $18 billion in annual revenues and is the second largest utility in the U.S. with 9 million gas and electric customers across 9 states. Tom Fanning has been chairman and CEO since December of 2010. Tom has been very active in industry leadership. He's serving as the Edison Electric Institute's chairman this year. That's the industry trade organization or association. And is chairman of the Electricity Subsector Coordinating Council, which is the principal liaison between the electric sector and the federal government for coordinating efforts against cyber threats and physical terrorism. Moreover, Southern Company under Tom's leadership is taking positions across a curiously wide spectrum of the nation's energy value chain. I joined Tom Fanning in his office in Atlanta for this conversation on August 10, 2016. Our discussion revealed his rationale for Southern's investment activities and his vision and leadership in actuating it. Southern Company has been building and buying in key areas including nuclear, renewables, natural gas, clean coal, and energy efficiency. If Southern's sweeping strategic activity raises questions in the observance, Tom's answers both illuminate Southern's vision and illustrate the characteristics of his leadership. We sorted through what Tom calls his all-of-the-above approach by addressing Southern's areas of investment one by one. We'll cover nuclear first in the lineup. To start off, it has been busy times for you. We saw each other mid-June, and you were accepting the chairman responsibility for EEI during that event. You were interviewing Nick Saban, which I thought was fabulous. You've been acquisitive prior to that with AGL. You've got the alliance with First Solar. You've got the acquisition of Power Secure, and then you've got the partnership with Kinder Morgan that you've done. How do you sort out the strategy or explain the strategy among all those areas that you're touching?
We really believe, we tend to be fuel agnostics. And so what we believe is there is a transition of America's energy production fleet. So I'm going to focus mostly on energy, but it also goes to gas and oil and other things. But if you think about it, there'll be a transition of our energy production fleet from where we are today to where we need to be in, say, you tell me the year, 2050, 2035. And we believe that there are lots of objective functions we're going to have to hit. Now, I always say clean, safe, reliable, affordable. One of the objective functions that goes in line with clean deals with carbon. And we have a policy in at least this administration where they want to be low to no carbon by 2050. Okay, so you tell me kind of the rules, I'll tell you the best way to get there. And so we've been working on our own plan to do that. And we think we're doing that in an exceptional way by building new nuclear. And I think in the rear view mirror, Plant Vogtle 3 and 4 is going to be one of the most successful mega projects in modern American industrial history. We are also looking at the next generation of Vogtle 3 and 4. We're looking at, frankly, the research and development. We're the only company in America, in our industry, still doing robust proprietary research and development. We just got a grant for Gen 4 reactors, and these are molten salt reactors. So even beyond AP 1000, we're advancing the study of what might be the nuclear option in the future. So that's our nuclear branch. In my view, because it is large central station power, base load, no carbon, it must be one of the dominant solutions.
Tom's bold, independent vision has led Southern to act as an industry vanguard for new technologies. Southern has been applying new technologies to old workhorses like coal.
It is clear that coal is in an enormous transition here in the United States. The plant we're building at Kemper County, 21st century coal is the way we describe it. Our technology that we developed, along with Kellogg Brown Root, will be able to consume coal and produce less carbon than even natural gas. So it's 65% CO2 removal. And while I don't know how many more of these will be built in the United States, there is a lot of demand in Eastern Europe, Serbia, Romania, Poland, South Korea, China, in which this technology, we've signed agreements in all those places, and hopefully more will be built. We got to get Kemper up and running. We're right on the doorstep of doing that. We also run for all of America and now internationally, the nation's and now the world's Carbon Capture Research Center, Wilsonville, Alabama. We also have the only alive production of pre- and post-combustion carbon capture. Pre-combustion at Kemper County, post-combustion at Plant Barry. So we are doing a ton of work trying to figure out ways to use coal responsibly. And that's not it's certainly not a Southern Company issue. It's not a domestic issue. This is an international issue. And there's nobody doing more than we are around the world.
Tom has taken an aggressive posture to wean Southern Company off coal.
Before I became chairman, we produced 70% of our energy from coal. It was very clear to me that we were moving kind of away from coal in America. And now this year, in my last earnings call, so through June, 28% of our energy came from coal. Now, we're not the same size. We're a little bit smaller, but similar, just to give you an idea. We're about the size from an energy production standpoint as the nation of Australia. For us to turn the battleship that big, that quick, was pretty enormous. And that's what we're doing. And I've never been, and here again, I want to go back to this notion of being fuel agnostic. I'm not pro-coal, pro-nuclear, pro-renewables, pro-gas, pro-anything. I'm an agnostic. What I want to do is deliver a set of optionality to my customers where no matter what the fuel markets do, I can deliver clean, safe, reliable, affordable, as well as anybody in the United States. That's the value of the portfolio.
Southern Company has one of the largest voluntary solar portfolios of any investor-owned utility in the U.S. As of early July, Southern owned more than 1,600 megawatts of solar generating capacity at 26 facilities across 6 states.
We have been one of the biggest owners of solar generation in America. And that's been a thing of mine since I became chairman. I'm just a believer in that technology and its relevance to the Southeast. We are now moving to more and more wind. We have been aggressively growing that portfolio, and what I just announced on my latest earnings call, we were going to spend $2.4 billion at Southern Power on renewables this year. Now we've increased that to $4.5 billion in 1 year on renewables. That's pretty notable. So aggressive growth and a pivot towards more wind. So we're going to see more wind go.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back to continue our discussion with Tom Fanning, CEO of Southern Company. We're back with Tom Fanning, CEO of Southern Company.
Now, when you think about renewables, a lot of people believe that's the panacea, that's the way forward. And it is a way forward. It is another of the dominant solutions. But because of the intermittency issues, because of the issues that relate to really where the wonderful resources are, for particularly solar and wind, there are very few people. And so you got to move the energy from where it is generated to where the people are. It requires transmission. It also requires a great deal of tax support. And so when I think about it, because renewables are intermittent,
Yes.
we will need to deploy more combustion turbines. Because we're limited in the amount of new baseload we can build, just because nuclear is such a limited set, and because coal is so challenged here in the United States, the old workhorses of baseload generation are becoming less important. Well, now natural gas will step into that void. And so you will have combined cycle units provide baseload support, what has been nuclear and coal. For all those reasons, we believe that natural gas is going to remain another dominant solution for at least the next, you tell me, 35 years. So, combined cycles, CTs to support renewables, bam. Natural gas must be a really important player in the future. And because we have energy policy in the past set on scarcity, and now we can set energy policy based on abundance, because of the miracle that is fracking and directional drilling, we have made a big bet in natural gas infrastructure. We bought the nation's largest LDC with AGL Resources, now Southern Company Gas, and we've just announced our venture with Kinder Morgan for Sonat, 50% of that, the most important interstate pipe in the Southeast. And there's more to come there. So nuclear, 21st century coal, renewables, natural gas. We've all made plays there.
When I met up with Tom in August, he'd been getting his own house in order with respect to energy efficiency technologies.
You know, the cleanest kilowatt hour is the one you don't consume. We have been a leader in the United States in exploring really strategic relationships with people like Tesla, not only for the automotive side, but also the battery storage side. And in fact, now I have Tesla Powerwall technology in my house. It was put up yesterday.
Okay.
I have solar panels on my roof.
How long have they been on your roof?
A week.
Okay. You're really
Nest thermostats. So that's the adaptive thermostat. And what's fascinating about Nest, we've been one of the big supporters of Nest. I think we're one of their biggest customers. We're deploying 10,000 Nest thermostats. We're giving them away if you go on time of use pricing in Georgia Power. And interestingly, regulatory entrepreneurship, I need to return to that concept,
interesting.
is a real big deal.
But the adaptive thermostat is not Southern's view of the end game for the technology. Their view goes farther.
We're interested in the adaptive thermostat, but what's more interesting to me is with the advent of smart chip technology and the smart home, we really believe that something like the Nest thermostat will become the adaptive server for the Internet of Things inside your house. And so we're also working with systems people like Google and others to tie it all together. So we may think instead of a smart meter being the hub, which I've always been on record against, we believe a smart thermostat evolving into a smart server is really the way I think this will occur.
Interesting.
And I think it's the next quantum leap in energy efficiency inside a house or a business or an industrial setting.
One thing I've been asking all of the utilities is, how do you define your boundaries? You're not defining your boundary at the meter. You're defining it at the customer.
No, I'm going to develop it with the customer. I have a boundary on the other side of the customer. In other words, I want to be I want to be their trusted energy provider. Traditionally, this industry has been built by making, moving, and selling energy, with the end point of that being focused on a meter. And a customer was on the other side of a meter, so they would procure energy, therms or electrons, through a meter, and then they would do something with it. Today, because the digital economy is growing like crazy, because technology is enabling it, and because customers are requiring it, we are now obviating the meter. And this notion of make, move, sell in front of the meter will likely always exist, But now we see make, move, and sell jumping over the meter and being located on the customer premise.
Yeah.
Customers really don't want to get in our business. I don't think. They want to focus on what they're good at. If you imagine a home, it could be a distributed generation in the form of a panel. It could be a fuel cell. It could be a storage device like a Tesla Powerwall. Could be gas or electric charging stations for transportation. Could be a fuel cell. Could be a smart meter. Could be backup generation. Could be a microgrid. And you can put this either at a home, a business, or an industrial setting. Southern used to have this expression, energy to serve your world. Well, it wasn't electricity to serve the Southeast. It was energy to serve your world. We have now moved into energy, not electricity. And customers really don't care how it appears. They want it reliable, safe, clean, and affordable. Okay, so I can deliver that. I can own the infrastructure. I can operate the infrastructure.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back to continue our discussion. We're back with Tom Fanning, CEO of Southern Company. I have heard about regulatory constraints. I've heard from regulators themselves that they don't feel that the utility's coming in and advocating for a position and leading the way. They're looking sometimes for the regulator to almost lead the way in certain areas.
Who knows our business better than us? Shame on us if we say it can't be done. Number two, shame on us if we don't provide avenues, regimes, structures in which this can benefit everybody. If all you do is let that innovation occur somewhere else, if we don't take accountability for it, well, it's like the old, the lesson at least that I always associate with barbarians at the gate. Remember the story?
Yeah, of course.
Takeover of RJR Nabisco? If I had to take one story, one line away from that book, and I've tried to spread it, it's in here, I tried to spread it throughout Southern. If you don't run your business as well as you can, somebody will. And so it's our accountability. Oh yeah, it doesn't work right now. We'll figure out a way to make it work. And that's what we try and do. So there is innovation in a technology, there's innovation in a business model, and there's innovation in a regulatory structure. So that's this regulatory entrepreneurship. A lot of times in our industry, people will say, well, the regulator won't let us do that. If there is a good business case for clean, safe, reliable, affordable, for the customer's benefit, then I want to be the entrepreneur that creates regulatory structures, working with our regulators to make that happen, all for the customer's benefit. And I think we can do that.
You're fighting battles on many fronts, and there's resources that you have. I mean, if you're playing offense everywhere, there can be resource constraints there for yourself. How do you manage that?
Here's the blessing of Southern Company. We have the scale, and we have the technical depth through our research, through the kind of people we have. We have the quality of regulation. We're an integrated, regulated utility in the Southeast. And therefore, I think it is a much more constructive business model on behalf of the customers and us. See, that's why we're the only company in America that's all the above. We can, in fact, plan an optimal portfolio. If you're in a so-called organized market, you don't have that ability. So we have scale, financial integrity, technical depth, regulatory regimes that are supportive to be able to do these things. The constraints themselves are not very big because we're so big. We can make lots of bets. Like we've done these and maintained a posture of financial integrity that's fantastic. In fact, if you look in the market, I think past 2 years, Southern Company's had, I think, among the S&P 500, the lowest beta, the lowest systematic risk measure of any stock in the S&P 500. That's because investors believe we can execute our business in a highly sustainable, predictable way. We've been able to grow our dividends. We've been one of the few companies in America never to have reduced our dividend. We've increased it now 14 years in a row. And in fact, what I said upon the acquisition of AGL Resources, with the profile it gives us, I think we can increase the rate of growth of our dividend. So this notion of financial constraints, while I suppose there is a theoretical limit, I don't see it right now. We can do everything we want to do. There's this body of math called chaos theory. And one of the tenets of chaos theory says that the variance in nature is typically bigger than what you quantitatively measure. And I kind of believe that. When you think about all of the change in front of us, I think the way to play that change is not to make enormous static bets, determinative bets, but rather make bets that are either options within themselves or reasonably sized bets, AGL, that creates other options. And that's the way we're pursuing it. The greater the volatility, the greater the uncertainty, the greater the value your options have. That's just straight finance theory. And that's the way we're playing it.
That ends part one of a two-part episode with Tom Fanning, CEO of Southern Company. Stay tuned for part two, where we'll return for a detailed discussion about Tom's activity beyond Southern Company, his Edison Electric Institute chairmanship, his cybersecurity leadership, and perhaps even a call for action for lifeline/critical sectors like financial services and telecom and cybersecurity. Keep an eye out for part two, and we'll see you next time. The Leadership Lyceum, a CEO's virtual mentor, has been a production of the Leadership Lyceum, LLC. Copyright 2016, all rights reserved. Come back and listen. It's lonely at the top.